3 tips to consider before shifting to the cloud platform. Number 1, and I think this is the most important thing, is take a real good look at your existing network. Is it a healthy network? Understand what's on that rack. Do you have PoE switches in place, or last minute, are you going to need power supplies for every phone that you implement? That's important, believe it or not. Why? Because not every service provider throws in a brick or a power supply, right? And they add up really quick. So if you got 100, 150 employees, you're talking a lot of money. I also like to bring up, well, how is your network cabled? Is it category 5E or category 6? Not that it is that critical, because if you're at Cat 5E or above, you should be good. Voice traffic does not suck up too much bandwidth, okay? But it is important to understand your current network. Is it 5E or is it Cat 6? Another very important one is, well, you know, if you got 10 employees or above, well, I like to make sure I always separate my voice traffic from my data traffic, right? So we create VLANs. So that's all part of really taking a hard look at that existing network. Tip number 2 is your wireless infrastructure, right? People forget that part of it, but it's part of your network. Might as well check it out, you know? And this, believe it or not, is probably the perfect time to consider bringing up those access points to a Wi-Fi 6. Now remember, when going to a cloud platform, right, whether you're walking around with a cellular device and the app is running on your cell phone, you're still going to be using that wireless access point. Not 5G, wireless access point. If you lose power, that's a whole other story. Then you're using your 5G technology. So take a look at your wireless. Tip number 3, plan out the communication and collaboration strategy before moving to that cloud platform. Why do I say this? It's so important, and I've been at this point so many times when you're ready to implement, and all of a sudden you find out, well, most of the company's on Microsoft Teams. So the question now is, how are we going to collaborate? We got the voice piece of it down, right? We're going to text, we're going to chat, we're going to do all this, video conferencing, etc. But now all of a sudden, for example, Microsoft Teams, you collaborate with every tool they offer. So what does that mean in your company, right? That's why you need to plan out. You have to have a strategic plan of how you're going to utilize the cloud platform and how your employees are going to better collaborate. There's ways to just take the voice portion, shut off all the other apps, and integrate that with other providers. So why? So that your employees don't get confused. They're going to continue to collaborate with what they are comfortable with, and they're just going to use the voice portion of the cloud that you're implementing today. The other question is, how are you going to communicate? I know that sounds really silly, right? But the truth is, in the future, you're probably going to use less and less phones. So one thing to think about is, are we going to do phones? Are we going to do headsets? Today, it's all Bluetooth, and I highly recommend it. Remember this one, when you're planning out your communication collaboration part of it, not everybody needs a full license. That's a secret. That's a huge tip. Why? Many companies will bang you with a full license. Listen, sometimes we need a conference phone. That's all. That's a resource line. You could bring down that rate per license, you know, but you have to ask. So I hope these 3 tips are valuable on really things to think about prior to you making that shift to the cloud.